How much equity is a good deal? How much equity is a good deal? So with pre-foreclosure wholesaling, how much equity is a good deal? My name is Ola. Welcome back. So we're still talking about pre-foreclosure wholesaling as we normally do here. So let's do a quick refresher. What is pre-foreclosure? What is wholesaling? What is equity? Right? You need to understand those basic things in order to understand what we're talking about here, and in order to make sure that we answer the question properly, right? So pre-foreclosure is existing. They're basically the stage before foreclosure, right? Foreclosure is when you owe money to a bank after you've used your property as a collateral, right? And the property is attempting to sell the property so they can get their money, right? That's foreclosure, right? Pre-foreclosure is basically everything before that, but there is quite a few events that happen. So for example, you own a property and you haven't paid in 3 months. At that point in 3 months, at least in New Jersey, I know it varies depending on what state, right? The time frame varies, right? And the process can vary quite a bit, but it's the same process. The idea is that they want to take the property, sell it, and take their money. You've used that property as a stand, collateral. You stand for the money, right? So basically you signed a promissory note that if you don't pay, we can sell your property, right? So at about 3 months after you stop payment, the bank files what they call an intention to foreclose. Depending, some people call it list pendings, meaning pending lawsuit, in attempt to collect their money. Okay, it's a collection activity, right? So all that whole stage is called pre-foreclosure. So this is a good point where you can literally approach a homeowner and offer them some kind of money for their property. You can find really cheap deals going after pre-foreclosures, because once it's recorded at the county house, it's public record. Everyone can see it, right? So it's literally the whole public have access to that list. And this is, and also with today's opportunities, if you see EmpireBigData.com, you can access all of that list across the nation of all the list of properties that are already owing money and they can't afford, usually indicating that they can't afford to own or hold on to the property. So you can approach them and offer them a price point that makes sense. Usually it's because the property needs some work, because if the property was in perfect shape, usually people don't let it fall apart like that, right? So that's what pre-foreclosure is. So when you now approach and you offer to buy the property and you lock it up under a purchase contract and you sell the rights to that contract, the rights to purchase, when you sell it to other people, that's what wholesaling is. So wholesaling is the heart and the science of finding deeply discounted properties by approaching distressed properties or distressed owners in distressed situations, and then putting it under purchase contract and selling the rights of that contract. It's all paperwork. You don't have to be physically present to make this happen. Like I said, at EmpireBigData.com, this list are available literally, and you can download them, and you can offer contact those people, get the contact information also from the same spot, and contact those people. If they say, hey, yeah, we can't afford this property, there's multiple reasons why they usually can't afford the property. It's vacant, they don't live there, maybe they inherited the property, they don't really have any type of emotional attachment to the property, so it's not a home, it's a house, right? That's what pre-foreclosure wholesaling is. So if you focus on pre-foreclosure list and you attempt to wholesale, that's pre-foreclosure wholesaling. But there's something called equity. It's basically how much ownership in terms of the worth of the property and how much is owed against it. Okay, it could be a mortgage, it could be taxes that they owe against the property. It could be any type of lien. Maybe there's some mechanical lien. They could owe $10,000. Maybe they fixed up the property one time and they couldn't make the payment. So now the contractor has put a lien on the property. They owe the contractor $10,000. Okay. So for example, equity is if the property in today's market is worth $400,000, right? and they owe $220,000 against the property. The amount of equity in that property is now is the difference, $180,000. Does that make sense? So how much equity is a good deal? So now here's the beautiful answer that I can give you about pre-foreclosure. It doesn't matter, okay? What makes it a good deal is a motivated seller. Okay, because usually in pre-foreclosures, people may owe way too much than the property is worth, and there are solutions for that. Okay, but the first step that you need to know is that to make sure that this person is truly motivated. Motivation doesn't mean they want to sell; it means they desperately need to sell. That's the difference. Okay, we're not talking about on the realtor retail market right now. We're talking about you as an investor or as a wholesaler, meaning you're looking for deals for investors, right? Your job is to find deals. What is a deal? Precisely a motivated seller, okay? A motivated seller do not care about the numbers. They don't care about how much money they make within your context of how you operate. I'm talking about right now. With a realtor, motivated seller could mean I really need to sell. Really need to sell is not good enough. I desperately need to sell because this property is bad on my financial books. That's motivated seller. I'm not talking about motivation. I'm talking about a motivated seller. If you have that, you have a deal. Then you can always work out the equity, okay? If there is almost 100% equity in it, meaning high equity in the property, it makes things, yes, it can make things a lot more easier. If there's negative equity, meaning they owe way too much than the property is actually worth, right? Then that also means you can do something. There's a different solution, short sales, other things that you can bring to the table, even subject to that you can bring to the table. But the first thing first is to make sure that this person is motivated. If they're not motivated, even if there's 100% equity in the deal, it will fall apart because they probably think their property is worth $1 million when it's actually worth $400,000. Why? Because you're actually dealing with a non-motivated seller. So what makes a motivated seller is you're listening. Why do they want to sell? How soon do they need to sell? When you're listening between the lines of this, you can detect if somebody is truly in a space of distress where they need to get rid of the property, and that's what you're looking for.